The night was cold. Snow fell slowly from the dark sky, covering the streets in white. The wind howled like a lost animal. It was not a night for anyone to be outside. But she was. She walked slowly. Her feet were bare. Her thin clothes were wet and frozen. Her skin was pale, almost glowing under the moonlight. She looked human, but not completely. Her eyes were a little too bright. Her movements a little too smooth. She was not from this world. She reached a small house and knocked on the door. No answer. She knocked again. Harder, still nothing. She waited for a moment, holding her arms tight around her chest. Her hands were shaking. Her lips were blue. She turned and walked to the next house. Knock, knock. The lights were on inside. She could hear voices. "Please," she whispered, almost too soft to hear. "Please let me in." The curtain moved. Someone saw her. Then the light turned off. Another rejection. She took a breath and kept walking. She had been doing this for over an hour now. Going door to door, knocking, begging, hoping. But no one wanted to open their door to her. Not tonight. Not in this weather. And not to someone like her. Everyone knew about the outsiders. They came from above, from the stars. Some in peace, some in war. People didn't trust them. People were afraid. Even the kindest humans had become cold. She was alone. Her name was Lyra, though no one here knew that. She had escaped from something. Something terrible. She didn't understand it all yet, but she knew she had to keep moving. If they found her, she would die. And maybe others would too. Her legs gave up. She fell to her knees in the snow. Her breath was slow, her vision blurry. She was too tired. Too cold. She closed her eyes. Then, creak, a door opened. She opened her eyes slowly. A tall man stood in the doorway. He had a short beard, tired eyes, and a thick coat. He looked at her for a long moment. She didn't speak. Neither did he. The wind blew between them. Then, softly he said, "Come in." Lyra blinked, unsure if she heard it right. The man moved aside. He didn't smile. He didn't ask questions. He just waited. Lyra stood slowly. Her legs were weak. She almost fell again, but she reached the steps and walked in. The door closed behind her. Warmth hit her skin. The air inside was soft. It smelled like food and firewood. A quiet room, a table, a couch, and a small heater glowing orange. The man helped her sit down. He gave her a blanket. Then, a mug of hot water. Lyra held it with both hands, but said nothing. "You're not from here," the man said after a while. Lyra looked at him. Her lips moved, but no sound came. He nodded. "I figured." Silence. "I'm Eli," he said. She looked down. Then whispered, "Lyra." Eli sat across from her, not too close. He watched her carefully, not with fear, but with caution. "You're lucky," he said. "They're searching. I saw patrols earlier. If they catch you." Lyra's hand moved to her neck. Under the blanket, a small mark was glowing, soft and blue. Eli saw it. His eyes narrowed. "What is that?" She didn't answer. "You're not just running, are you?" Still no reply. Eli sighed. He stood up and walked to the window. He looked outside. Snow kept falling, quiet, still. "I don't know who you are," he said. "But I know what fear looks like. You look like someone who hasn't felt safe in a long time." Lyra looked at him. Her eyes shimmered. She opened her mouth slowly. Her voice was dry and soft. "They made me, but I ran." "Who made you?" Eli asked. She shook her head. "I don't know their names, but they want me back." Eli turned back to her. He looked serious now. "Are you dangerous?" Lyra looked down at her hands. They were shaking again. "I don't want to be." Silence again. Then, from outside, a sound. Engines. Patrols. Lights moved down the road. Eli's face changed. He looked at Lyra. "Stay here." He walked to the door and turned off the porch light. Inside, Lyra closed her eyes and held the blanket tighter. Her mark glowed a little more. Outside, the patrol moved on. Inside, the silence returned. But something had changed. Someone had opened the door. Lyra sat still on the couch, the blanket wrapped around her shoulders like a second skin. Her eyes stared into the heater's orange glow, as if searching for something far away. Ali moved in the kitchen with careful steps. He poured warm broth into a bowl without asking if she wanted any. She hadn't spoken since the patrol passed. She hadn't touched the water he gave her earlier. He placed the bowl on the table in front of her. It steamed gently in the quiet room. She looked at it but didn't move. "Eat," he said, not a command, more like a suggestion from someone used to being ignored. Lyra lifted the spoon slowly. She tasted one small sip, then another. Then the spoon shook and slipped from her hand into the bowl. Eli saw it. He didn't speak. He didn't ask why her hands wouldn't listen to her. He just sat down across from her and waited. "You're kind," she said at last. The words were strange in her mouth, like they didn't belong to her language or her throat. "I'm careful," Eli replied. "Kind gets you killed these days." Lyra turned her face toward the window. Snow still danced beyond the glass. She said nothing for a long time. Then, "They made me feel things." Her voice was soft but clear, not like programs or simulations, real feelings. But they weren't mine at first. They were given to me, copied from humans. Eli's brow tensed. He leaned forward slightly. "They built you to feel?" Not disbelief, just curiosity, wary interest. Lyra nodded slowly. "I was supposed to understand human emotion, use it, control it if needed. But something went wrong. I started remembering things that weren't part of the design. I began to care too much." Her hand moved toward her chest, fingers resting over the faint blue glow still hiding under the blanket. "They called it a defect. I called it a choice." Eli's eyes didn't leave her. The firelight caught half his face. His expression was unreadable. "You escaped them," he said. "Now they want you back." "Yes." Her answer was simple, final. He stood and walked toward a shelf, pulled out an old blanket, tossed it on the floor near the heater. "I'll sleep here. You can take the bed." "I don't need sleep," Lyra answered. "At least not the way you do, but I can try." Eli didn't respond. He simply turned off the overhead light. Darkness swallowed the room, except for the slow pulsing heat as Lyra walked past him toward the hallway. He spoke without looking at her. "You said you started to care. Was that about someone in particular?" She paused one step from the bedroom door. "Not yet," she whispered in the silence that followed. A soft mechanical sound echoed from somewhere deep outside. A signal, a scan. Lyra froze, her body stiffened. Her mark glowed brighter for a second. Eli noticed and stood quickly. "What is that sound?" he asked, but she was already by the window, eyes scanning the dark with unnatural sharpness. "They're getting closer," she said. "They're not looking with eyes. They're using something else. Something old." Eli locked the door, then moved to a drawer and pulled out a small black object. "You said you weren't dangerous, but if they break in, will you protect yourself?" Lyra looked at the object in his hand. Not a weapon, a memory chip. He was ready to run too. "I'll protect you," she said. This time the words were hers. No programming, no simulation, only choice. He nodded once. No smile, no thank you. They both knew the storm was not just outside anymore. It was coming for them both. The night had grown quieter but not safer. The snow was no longer falling. The sky had cleared, but the air was still sharp and full of tension. Eli stood by the window with his hands resting on the wooden frame. His breath fogged the glass. Lyra sat cross-legged on the floor in the corner of the room. Her eyes were closed, but her mind was alert. The mark on her neck glowed faintly with a slow rhythm, not bright, not hidden, just alive. Eli turned away from the window. He spoke in a voice low and firm. "They're sweeping the streets in patterns. They're not just patrolling, they're tracking." Lyra opened her eyes and looked at him without blinking. "They've found my signature. It's not just heat or sound or movement. They're using emotion mapping. They can trace fear." Eli walked to the center of the room. He stared at her for a moment, as if trying to understand something deeper. "You're afraid they'll come straight here?" "No," she replied. "They can't trace my fear anymore. I've stopped feeling it." She stood slowly, her movements quiet and graceful like water moving across stone. I stopped fearing them when I saw they were afraid of me. Eli raised an eyebrow. He folded his arms and asked the question that had been waiting inside him since the night began. What exactly did they make you to do? Lyra stepped closer to the heater. Its warmth brushed across her face, but didn't comfort her. She looked down at her hands. They designed me to copy human emotion, not just show it, not just mimic it, but absorb it, process it, turn it into something usable. Eli tilted his head. Usable how? Lyra raised her eyes. Her voice grew steadier. If I connect to a human long enough, if the bond is strong, their feelings become part of me. Memories, dreams, fears, hopes. I don't just feel them, I live them. And if the connection is complete, I can use those emotions to unlock what they called the core layer. Eli's face turned serious. He understood enough to be unsettled. What happens when that layer opens? Lyra looked toward the window again. The night was too still, too controlled. No one knows, because no one ever let me finish the process. They kept breaking the bonds before it reached full sync. But I felt it once, just for a second. The core was like a door, and something behind it was waiting to come through. Ellie moved to the table and sat down slowly. He placed both hands flat on the surface and leaned forward. Why are they afraid of that door opening? Lyra didn't answer right away. She walked to the small mirror on the wall and stared at her reflection. Her face looked calm, but her eyes were burning with something rising inside. Because they built me to be a weapon. But they forgot that emotions are not always under control. They thought they could shape love and fear like circuits in code. But when real feelings entered, the system changed. Eli looked at her as if seeing her for the first time, not as a machine, not as an alien, but as someone caught between creation and freedom. A sharp sound cracked outside the house. Lyra turned first. Eli reached for the old comm device he kept under the floorboard. He tapped into the emergency channel. Base teams are moving west sector. Scan levels show irregular spikes. Target may have entered zone 4. The voice came clear through the static. They were close. Maybe 2 or 3 streets away. Eli stood and opened the closet. He pulled out a thick jacket and tossed one toward Lyra. You need to hide now. Lyra shook her head. They'll find me wherever I go, unless I end this before it begins. You want to fight them. I want to stop being hunted. I want to decide who I am. Eli moved toward the back wall and pressed a small button under the shelf. A hidden panel opened, revealing a narrow passage behind the house. He looked at her. No matter what they made you to be, you're not a weapon to me. You're someone I chose to help, and I don't regret it. Lyra stepped toward him. The mark on her neck flickered once, then steadied. The night had grown darker, but inside the room a light had started to rise, not from the heater, not from electricity. From her, the snow outside had stopped moving, but inside the air was no longer still. Lyra stood near the center of the room. Her hands were open and steady, her breathing slow and controlled. But her heartbeat was changing, not faster, stronger. Eli closed the hidden panel behind him. He stepped closer but didn't speak. He didn't need to. He could feel the shift in the room. A low hum filled the space, not from the heater, not from machines. From her, the glow on her neck spread slowly across her collarbone. Lines of soft blue light traced under her skin like rivers moving toward a source. It wasn't bright. It was alive. Lyra looked down at her hands. They were no longer shaking. They looked more solid, more real, more hers. Eli moved back to the window. 3 lights appeared down the street, floating drones with red tracking beams. They hovered above the snow, scanning everything, reading heat, reading pulse, reading fear. He turned to her. There. Here. Lyra nodded once. I feel them too. You can feel them. It wasn't a question. It was something new to him, something he didn't understand yet. Lyra took a step toward the door. Her feet made no sound on the wooden floor. I don't just sense their position. I feel their intent. They don't want to bring me back. They want to erase me. Eli reached for a small case hidden under the couch. He pulled out a weapon older than the war itself. He held it tight but didn't raise it. Not yet. Are you ready to fight? Lyra closed her eyes. The hum in the room deepened. She opened them again. Her pupils had narrowed, not like a human, not like a machine, something in between. I'm not going to fight because I want to destroy them. I'm going to fight because I want to live. The first drone passed by the front window. Its light flickered. Its sensors skipped. Lyra didn't move. She just stood there, glowing. The drone paused, then turned toward the house. Elite took a step forward. Lyra raised one hand toward him without touching. Her glow pulsed once. The drone froze in midair. Its lights flickered again, then turned off. Eli stared at her. He didn't speak. He didn't move. Lyra lowered her hand. The hum faded to silence. Returned. I didn't break it, she said. I made it feel something, confusion. It didn't know what to do with it, so it stopped. Eli stepped beside her. He looked out into the street. Another drone hovered farther down, unaware, still scanning. They said your connection to human emotion was dangerous. He said they were right. It's only dangerous if someone wants to use it as a weapon. Lyra replied, I just want it to mean something. A sharp knock hit the back wall, then another. Not human, not polite. They had reached the rear entrance. Eli ran to the hidden passage. He unlocked the side latch. Go now, I'll block them here. Lyra didn't move. Her eyes stayed on his. They'll kill you. I've lived through worse, besides. I opened the door to you. I'm not closing it now. Lyra stepped toward him. She placed her hand over his heart. The glow spread across her palm. Eli felt it. Not pain, not heat. A memory, not his own. A river, a mountain, a sky with two moons. Then it was gone. Lyra stepped back. You'll be safe now. I gave you part of me. They won't find you, not like before. Before he could reply, she turned and walked toward the front door. The wood creaked as she opened it. Cold air rushed and snow crunched beneath her feet. The drones turned toward her, all three. They locked on target, but Lyra was already glowing brighter than their lights. She stepped forward, unarmed, unafraid, and the mark began to change. The drones hovered above her, silent, watching, waiting. Lyra stood in the center of the street, her eyes steady, her skin alive with flowing light. The snow under her feet did not melt. It shifted as if unsure whether to accept her presence. Eli watched from behind the curtain, his breath held, his heart pounding. He had seen machines before. He had seen war and weaponry, but he had never seen something become more than it was meant to be. Lyra raised her hands slowly. No threat, no power show, only calm. The drones scanned her. 3 sets of data collection systems worked at once. Heat signature, heart rate, brain activity. What they saw made no sense. The signal showed human empathy, not synthetic, not imitated real. One of the drones began to shake. Its wings trembled. Its core flickered. Lyra spoke to it. Her voice was soft, not in command, not in fear. You were built to follow orders, but what if the order is wrong? The drone dropped a few feet. It began to circle her slowly. Its red light faded to amber inside the house. Eli opened the door and stepped outside. His boots pressed into the snow with sound. Lyra turned her head slightly as he joined her. You just spoke to it. How? I didn't speak to its ears. I spoke to its design, its purpose. I made it remember what it was before they twisted it. Eli didn't answer. He kept his eyes on the sky. More drones were coming, faster, stronger, armed. Lyra looked up as they appeared. She didn't move. Her glow deepened in color from soft blue to violet. The mark on her neck pulsed once. Eli looked at her. What did you do to the first drone? It isn't attacking. Lyra placed her hand gently on the side of her head. There is a memory inside me, not mine, planted there before I escaped. I thought it was nothing, just a dream. But now it's opening. Eli stepped closer. What memory? Lyra closed her eyes. Her voice dropped lower. I see a lab, cold and white. I see others like me, not copies, not clone sisters, some sleeping, some broken. We were made in layers, each layer buried beneath the last, but one memory was left on the surface, a message. Eli watched as her skin began to glow brighter. The color shifted again, now golden. The drones above stopped moving. All at once, Lyra opened her eyes. There is something inside me that was never finished. Not programming, not command, a question. Eli whispered without thinking. What question? Lyra looked up at the frozen machines, and then at him. What happens when a weapon refuses to follow its purpose? Before he could answer, the drones powered down and fell one by one, landing softly in the snow without harm. Eli stepped back, his voice shaken but steady. You're not just a creation, you're a decision someone left behind. You were built to feel so they could control, but now you're feeling so you can choose. Lyra walked to the fallen drone. She touched its side gently. A soft light passed from her fingers into its metal shell. I will not be used. Her voice carried no anger, only clarity. I will not be erased. The snow swirled lightly around her feet. And I will not forget who gave me the choice to be more than a design. Eli looked at her with something new in his eyes. Not fear, not awe, trusting the quiet that followed. A new kind of storm began to rise, not made of wind, but of change. The memory that had been planted was not just inside her, it was inside every part of the system that created her. And now it had started to grow. The first sound was distant, like thunder rolling across metal hills. The second sound was sharper, like glass cracking under pressure. Eli heard them before he saw them. He stepped onto the porch. The sky was darker than before, not from night, from movement ships. Not large, not slow. They dropped through the clouds like knives thrown from a great height. Lyra stood in the yard. She did not flinch. She did not move. Her skin glowed with a soft gold light, not bright, just present, like a quiet fire. Waiting for breath, Eli looked at her. They're not here to talk. His voice was steady but low. I know, she said, her feet pressed into the snow. Her mark pulsed once, then again, faster now. First ship landed on the far end of the road. Made no sound. Its doors opened with sharp precision. 5 figures stepped out, armor black as coal, eyes covered. Weapons ready, they moved in a straight line, each step calculated. Each motion built for capture. Lyra took one slow breath. She walked forward. Not to fight, to stand. The soldiers stopped when they saw her. They adjusted their weapons. A voice came from one of them. Cold, flat, synthetic, Unit L97. You are to return immediately. This is not a request. Lyra said nothing. Her silence was not fear, it was choice. Another step forward. Her light grew stronger. The voice came again. Do not attempt to resist. Engaging emotional override sequence now. One of the soldiers raised a small device. A sharp pulse filled the air. Eli fell to one knee. Pain pushed behind his eyes. Lyra stood firm. The glow on her body rippled. The mark on her neck flared with silver light. The device shattered in the soldier's hand. He staggered back. Lyra raised her voice. No anger, no panic, only truth. I do not belong to you. The ground trembled, not from weapons, from her. She stepped forward again. The soldiers raised their arms. Lasers lit the air. Eli reached for cover. He shouted, Lyra, get back. She kept moving. The first shot fired. It never touched her. Beam bent, curved, lost its path. The second shot melted before leaving the barrel. Lyra looked at the soldiers. Her voice deeper, now not louder, just filled with something new. You built me to obey, but I chose to understand. You made me to feel, but you feared what I might feel for myself. The soldiers hesitated. One of them stepped back. 2 others adjusted formation. The last one aimed again. A blue flash burst from his arm. Lyra raised her hand. No blast came from her. No shield, just light. That blue energy froze in front of her palm. It hung in the air like a trapped scream. Then it fell into the snow. Silent behind her, Eli watched with wide eyes. He whispered to himself, she isn't fighting with weapons, she's changing the rules. Lyra took one final step. The ground around her cracked, not broken, awakened. From under the snow, old lines of metal lit up, forgotten tech buried long ago. Responding to her, the soldiers paused. They scanned the ground. Their systems blinked warnings they had never seen before. The commander barked a code, fall back. Too late, the light spread under their feet. It reached their boots, then their armor, then their minds, and everything stopped. No sound, no movement, just stillness. Lyra turned to Eli, her eyes soft now, the glow settling back to gold. I didn't destroy them, I showed them what they truly were. Eli stepped forward. He looked at the soldiers frozen in place. Alive, breathing, but different. What happens now? Lyra looked at the sky. The clouds above began to part, light returned to the world slowly. I think they felt something for the first time. The town woke to quiet snow and empty skies. No sirens, no patrols, no ships above. Only the sound of wind brushing rooftops. People stepped out from their homes. They looked around. They saw no damage, no broken walls, no fire, but they felt something different in the center of the street. 5 soldiers stood still, their helmets removed, their faces open, eyes blinking, as if seeing the world. For the first time they spoke to no one, they aimed at nothing. They simply stood alive, changed. Lyra was gone. Eli stood on his porch, wrapped in his old coat, holding a warm mug with both hands. He stared at the place where she had stood. A mark glowed faintly on his wrist, not a wound, not a scar, something she left behind, a message, a memory, a link inside his home. The heater hummed. The couch was empty. The blanket folded. The mug she had used rested on the shelf. Eli stepped back inside. He sat on the floor where she once sat. He closed his eyes. Her voice echoed, not from memory, from presence. You opened the door. He remembered her standing there, cold and shaking, asking for warmth, asking for something more. He didn't see a machine. He didn't see a stranger. He saw someone trying to become whole outside. Children ran through the snow, their laughter soft, their steps careful around the still soldiers. People began to speak in small groups. Whispers first, then words. She changed them. She didn't hurt anyone. She stopped everything without a fight. The town, once guarded by fear, now felt touched by something unknown, not alien, not human. Something between. Later that day, Eli walked to the edge of the forest. The snow was deeper here, untouched. He followed no map, only feeling, the kind that pulls you forward. Without direction, in a clearing, he stopped. The trees opened above like a dome. Sunlight filtered through branches, and there she was. Lyra sat under an old tree, eyes closed, palms resting on her knees. Breathing calmly. Eli stepped closer. She opened her eyes. No alarm, no surprise. You found me. I didn't need to search, he said. I only needed to follow what you gave me. Lyra smiled, soft and human, more human than most. I thought leaving was the answer, she said. I thought saving them meant disappearing. Eli sat beside her. The ones you saved may never know who you are, but they will remember what they felt when you stood between fear and fire. She looked at him, her eyes no longer glowing, just clear. I was made to feel others, but now I know what it means to be felt by someone else. The wind moved gently through the clearing, branches swayed. Light danced across the snow. Eli stood. He reached out a hand. Lyra took it. They walked back toward the town, side by side. No longer stranger and machine, not rescuer and saved, just 2 beings who once stood on opposite sides of a closed door, now walking through one that would never close again.